let's try and reimagine Nigeria. The country's youngest presidential candidate, an African Union youth role model, Ahmed Buhari, tried to do that in 2019. He ran for president, but alas, he failed. But he gained a lot of followers after that first attempt and has worked to try to rally the youth into a cohesive political force. So today, Ahmed Buhari, no relation to the other Buhari, shares his thoughts with us on the Twitter ban, as well as that interview with President Buhari, growing insecurity across the country, and the approaching storm that is the 2023 presidential election. Having tested the waters in 2019, is he likely to throw his hat into the ring once again in 2023? And Ahmed Buhari joins me now in the studio. Thank you for coming in. I understand you were a little bit off color for a while.
I was, but
your color is back.
I'm fine.
And that's
doing
good.
Well.
Now, you're the youngest person so far in Nigeria to run for president in this country.
Yes.
You were able to mobilize quite a lot of people to support you. And you did that with a lot of help from social media, including, of course, Twitter, a platform which has become quite controversial in Nigeria. How do you feel about not being able to tweet because of the Nigerian government's ban on Twitter?
Yes, it is very true that I rode on the back of social media platforms to gain popularity, send my message out. For one, we didn't have enough money to use mainstream media, and so social media was just that right place. And this is not just for me, but for a lot of young people doing great things. I mean, social media is how they connect with the rest of the world. However, with a ban that has been placed on Twitter, it goes to show that there's a lot of miscommunication with the government and this private entity called Twitter that resides in the space. So when things like this come up, it's important that there's a good understanding of what the situation is, and it's always good to have dialogue. If I was the president, I wouldn't have ordered that platform will be shut down in my space, given the fact that I actually have used the platform in the past to do things for myself, do things with Nigerians, and young people use that platform to communicate. However, I do know that there's a lot of abuse, and that is why sometimes the government call for a way that the social media space can be moderated, can be controlled, and what have you. In essence, I believe that for Twitter to have pulled down that post, it's important that the government understands how and why. If you make a post that is rejected by a lot of people, they report the post. And when they report the post, it raises a red flag. And when that red flag is raised, the social media platform pulls it down. And then you can appeal, and you can contest it, and you can say, there's nothing wrong with my post.
That's a very interesting point that you raise, because the problem seems to be that the government's, perhaps it's a generational thing, I don't know, but the government doesn't seem to understand the way that Twitter works, because it isn't actually Twitter that monitors the output,
no,
but the people and Twitter users themselves.
Exactly.
So through a public forum set up for that purpose, they report posts that they think Twitter should take action on. So by that measure, it is the duty of the Nigerian government to use that public forum to draw the attention of Twitter to the activities of Nnamdi Kanu, for example,
exactly,
or Boko Haram, or whoever it
exactly.
is. And they haven't done that,
They haven't done that, so they haven't utilized these new avenues that
So basically, they don't understand how it works.
They don't understand how it works, and this is the reason why we keep saying, whether you like it or not, you need the young people in the system
Absolutely.
to direct you as to how to control a population that is largely youth-based.
Absolutely.
You know, so this is the miscommunication that I see. However, I do think that it's not too late. We can still invite everybody to the table. We can still sit down. We can reintroduce Twitter to the people and let Twitter know that we also have our values, our views, our challenges as a people, as a country, as a government, and we will need Twitter to help us also to shape in the minds of our people towards that direction that we believe would help us succeed in trying to deliver our goals and aspirations as a government. Because it's important for us to understand that as much as we want the freedom of speech and freedom of expression, it's also important that we do not, deviate from our value systems. not to forget that these platforms, for example, are alien to our spaces. I mean, the people who control these platforms are not in our spaces. They do not know how we feel, how we reason, how our challenges are. And so we will slowly but surely start having a generation of people who are Americanized here but live in Nigeria, and that is a huge conflict.
Do you think the Nigerian government is blaming a service provider for concerns that are being raised by the people of Nigeria? Because clearly the people of Nigeria, I mean, on all levels,
yes,
have concerns about what is happening in this country. I mean, there was an interview that Wole Soyinka, the Nobel laureate, gave on Arise News yesterday. He was absolutely blistering in his criticism, and he's just one of numerous others, from former heads of state to ordinary people on the streets. There is fundamental dissatisfaction with the way of governance in the country.
That's correct. And, you know, we're making Twitter the issue here, but the real issue for me is the insecurity. I mean, the Northeast has always been ravaged by this insecurity for many years now, over 10, 12 years. But it's slowly moving to the Northwest. And we're having issues in
the Southeast.
Yeah. And people complaining in the Southwest as well.
North Central.
So it's important that if I was the president, I would have invited every possible agitator right now. Every problem in the world always gets resolved on the table. There's nothing there. It's just about...
Well, I mean, Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin are just about to have a
imagine. I mean, this is like, nobody ever thought it was going to happen, but
absolutely,
it's happening. I mean, Israel, Palestine, as much as their battle has gone on for decades, they still sit on the table to see if they can resolve. So this is how I think we should do these things. There are a lot of groups that want to pull out of the country, and I think there's something I watched you talk about with the dot in a big circle, and talking about the Biafran agitators and all of that. In my opinion, I think what it really meant was the people should have a reconsider, should have a rethink about their movements and their intentions, because it looks as if they even go ahead and successfully get the Biafra country that they're looking for, or the Biafra Republic, they may not have any roots to trade.
Yeah, but that's the communication gap, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because, I mean, the president rather has a problem communicating those thoughts. But I'm sure he will be happy that you clarified that point on his behalf.
I hope so.
Especially given that you share the same surname. But you of course, that brings me to that Buhari interview on Arise News, which you saw.
Yes.
It's still making waves across the country. How did it touch you as a young politician? Was it his ability to communicate with Nigerians, the issue he raised, that touched you the most, or what?
First of all, I want to congratulate Arise. I mean, with the current situation, our president doesn't like the media that much, and for
you're kidding.
but it's what it is. But to see Arise, you know, make an inroad to have a conversation with the president, I think it's a good thing. We're very happy it happened. It's actually does a lot of tensions. A lot of people, at least nobody else is saying that it's who from Sudan, Jibril from Sudan anymore. Everybody believes it's Buhari, and Buhari is he's a sane man. He knows what he's doing and he knows what he wants. However, most of the things that he presented around areas that really concern people, especially people from certain parts of the country, talking about people from Benue down to the southeast, down to the southwest, with regards to open grazing. The president kind of made a remark to a gazette that he actually asked to be recalled to see how the framework was drawn with regards to the pathways. We've always known this, we've always known this, but again, it's important that the president realize that in the last 6 years of his administration, he has actually pleaded with Nigerians to go back to agriculture. He's actually invested a lot in agriculture. And when you invest in agriculture, what happens? People go back to the farmlands and they spread their farms and they grow bigger. And so those grazing routes that we used to have in the last 60, 70 years may not be able to hold anymore, because we're having a change in our viewpoints and change in what we want to focus on.
The country's evolved.
Everything is evolving.
Away from that.
Exactly. So I believe that it's about time we really, sit down, whether southern governors, northern governors, everybody has to sit down together and agree that, look, I would like to have an investment in livestock agriculture. I want to be part of this. I want to invest in this. I want to do this. And, let's also talk about the Fulani radio that came up like 3-4 years ago, when everybody was like, God forbid, we're not going to have a Fulani radio. But in my opinion, I think it was a step towards trying to get hold of the Fulanese people to educate them as to why we would want them to have a rethink of how they've been doing things in the past. Because we don't have them in one place. We can educate them. They can be in schools, but at least they can have radios. And we say, okay, fine. This is how we're going to run this
Well,
thing
that's
out.
actually key to nomadic education.
Absolutely.
In many ways.
Absolutely.
Because
So
you can communicate with them wherever they are.
Yeah, so I need Nigerians for a second to actually take a chill pill, because like I keep saying, if this whole Ruga settlement, open grazing, blah, 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 was a policy that was being put together by the former administration, say Goodluck Jonathan administration, somebody from the south, trying to support open grazing or what have you, the country will have supported it. The same way, if Jonathan had been the one that supported the amnesty program, a lot of people in the north would have rejected it. So it's the country, it's dynamic, it is complex, and it's important that we understand that the messenger and the messages are also very important to.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Let me just quickly get you, because we mentioned the other major interview on Arise News recently, which is the chat with the Nobel laureate, Wale Soyinka, talking about the need for Nigeria to restructure fast, or in his words, end up on a suicide slide. What are your thoughts on that, briefly?
We have to decentralize. It's the truth. The center is holding too much and it's breaking. Throughout my campaign, I kept talking about decentralization, but I think maybe those are ambiguous words and people do not understand what we're trying to say. But if we keep running like this, people don't even realize that their governors are to be held accountable, because the system has made it look as if everything has to come from the center. But if you look at this administration, from the time it started to now, no governor can say, oh, because I'm an opposition party member, I haven't received my monthly allocation. So in other words, the government is doing everything that it has to do according to the books. Unfortunately, there is a mindset that has got to be revisited.
Right. Now let's talk about insecurity. You touched on that briefly. The Emir of Zazzau crying out that they are at the mercy of kidnappers, particularly in Zaria, where he says bandits have laid siege, and children no longer go to school because of fear of being abducted. And that's just one part of the country. The same thing happening in other areas of Nigeria.
Everywhere. I mean, I'm from Kwantagora in Niger State, and people in the town tell us they received letters from bandits saying, we're going to come around, I'm going to take your cattle, we're going to take your feet, keep them ready for us, that we do not harm you people.
And so and they in fact end up
they
coming.
Actually do it, and nothing stops them.
Yeah.
But you see, it's also important for us to understand that when it comes to security across the northern part of this country, it has never really been safe. I have never really remembered the time when we say, oh, there's nothing happening in the north with regards to insecurity. From the time of the 70s to the 80s to the Matasini, even during Obasanjo's time, we had some bandits who were actually ravaging the streets. But now this information gets to us very quickly because of social media as well. So we're able to now, keep ourselves informed with what is happening around us. And well, I'm hoping that the authorities will use this as an opportunity to actually, stay ahead of the bandits before they attack.
Right. So, of course, the big issue here that a lot of people have a problem with is governance. You ran in 2019. Are you going to do it again in 2023?
Yes, I am.
Right. Tell us more about that. We've got about 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's important we do the same thing again, but better now. I'm glad that more people are beginning to see that we had great plans. However, we needed to crack the space, get ourselves known, get the message clear, and Nigerians are more awakened now. And I'm glad that they're looking forward to real good ideas that would actually take us to the path to prosperity.
And you heard it here on Arise News. Ahmed Buhari, the youngest ever presidential candidate who ran in 2019, he says he's going to do it again in 2023. Thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure,
And
Charles.
come back and talk to us again.